Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Omni viewer, and I'm here with a little bit more Godzilla news for you. Both of them involving comics, because 2025 is the year of Godzilla comics, it seems. So, first little bit of news. You may recall that Marvel has the rights to use Godzilla again. First, they reprinted their original 1970s Godzilla series in full color, hardcover, much better quality than the Essentials version than they did. Really expensive, but all the same, they were able to reprint it. And then they started doing, last year, they did some promotional covers for different comic book series, each for different superhero lines that featured Godzilla on the cover. It did not feature Godzilla in the actual issues, mind you. He was nowhere to be found between the covers of any of those books. He was strictly on the cover. Why? Well, it's a phenomenon called Wolverine publicity. Back when Wolverine was Marvel's most famous character, they started putting him on the covers of other books that he didn't appear in just in the hopes of boosting sales. This was kind of the same thing. They did these variant covers purely to appeal to collectors and boost sales of different titles. Cheap and underhanded move, yes. But all the same, there was sort of the hope that maybe there would be more to it, and eventually we did get an announcement that there would be more. And pretty soon we'll be having the different one-shots coming along with Godzilla and other Toho kaiju appearing throughout various forms of the Marvel Universe, meeting the different characters and so on. And those are each going to be one-shots, with the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Thor, things like that. Not necessarily interconnected, just different what-if scenarios, without being actual Marvel what-if. Turns out, that's not all. It was also announced that early in June, we'll be getting a Godzilla versus Avengers crossover, which, considering it's labeled Godzilla versus Avengers #1, could mean that's going to be its own longer series. Maybe not an ongoing series, but certainly more than just a one-shot issue. And from the plot description, it sounds like we're going to have Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, the Avengers, and Fin Fang Foom all meet at one point. But we're actually in the aftermath, and the different characters are trying to put forward what actually happened. So kind of sounds Rashomon-esque, but all the same, does sound like it'll be interesting. So Marvel's not about to let this Godzilla license go to waste anytime soon, it seems. They certainly could use the goodwill. And it does have me wondering if the long shot is possible. Back when I first reported on the one-shot crossovers, I pointed out that this means, unless something went screwy behind the scenes, Marvel currently has the rights to both Godzilla and Ultraman. Now, there hasn't been much word about Ultraman's ongoing series beyond his Avengers crossover, although it did finish, and they're going to not only be reprinting that, but also doing a trade of a manga crossover that'll both be released later this year. So I have to assume the deal is still on at this point. And I did wonder if perhaps it would be a long shot, but what if this license led to Godzilla and Ultraman finally getting an officially sanctioned crossover? Like I said, it'd be a long shot, but crazier things have happened. It might not take that much persuading, really. Marvel would have to go to both Toho and Tsuburaya Productions to convince them, but would they really need that much convincing? Toho and Supro are generally on good terms. There was that whole Jet Jaguar thing in the past, but it's water under the bridge by this point. And Toho has been approving Godzilla for all kinds of crossovers recently, especially in comics. Justice League, Power Rangers, Twice Over, all those public domain characters in Godzilla Monster Piece Theater. Could a Godzilla versus Ultraman comic from Marvel really be that far out of the question? I'm only wondering if it's more probable now because this Avengers crossover was announced separate from the one-shot crossovers. Again, it's a long shot. It's maybe just a pipe dream. I am not saying it's actually going to happen. Although, if it does happen, you heard it here first. Who knows at this point? All we know is that there's going to be that Avengers crossover, It's gonna have a Rashomon style kind of storytelling, so there's that to look forward to. We've also got our first look at an upcoming Godzilla manga out of Japan. One that details are still a little sparse on, but this particular image does give us our first glimpse of what Godzilla's design will be. And as you can see, it doesn't really show us much, although it does show his arm and the presence of arm spikes. It seems that arm spikes are in with Godzilla these days. He's had them on his design for quite a bit. The first time they really became prominently featured was in Godzilla the Ride. You can kind of see he has some pronounced spikes right here on his elbows. You know, they weren't the most obvious things, but they were there, although that was on the Ride. In terms of media that was a bit more traditional in nature, we first saw arm spikes appear on Godzilla Ultima and Godzilla Singular Point. He didn't really use them, mind you, but they were there. They were part of the design. Then, of course, Godzilla evolved, and Godzilla Kong the New Empire had them. They're not properly represented on this figure, but, you know, this is what I got that's easy to handle. And then, of course, in Godzilla Minus One, which, you know, there's a strong resemblance to the Godzilla the Ride design because Takashi Yamazaki did both of them. The elbow spikes were back, and they're a bit more prominent in the movie than they are on the figure. And now they're going to be on this design as well. Apparently, that's going to be part of Godzilla's design going forward, at least in Japan. But that's about all we know at this point, yet again. We know that the plot's going to involve some kind of a space monster, but other than that, I haven't seen any major updates. Maybe I just missed them, or maybe they got posted after I filmed this video. But all the same, we at least have some idea of what Godzilla might look like. So, he's probably going to look pretty aggressive in this one. Anyway, those are the major updates. Another Godzilla Marvel crossover is happening after the one-shots. We have a brief look at what Godzilla will look like in an upcoming manga. Could this be leading to a Godzilla versus Ultraman crossover in Marvel? I don't know, but I can always be hopeful. That's all we have for now. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.